Hello, good morning. Welcome back to the channel. It is 444 angel numbers. Um so something that I kind of want to chat about is when it comes to what the inside of my mind looks and sounds like, or the way that I process thought. You know how people will say are your thoughts in words, or do you hear them in a voice? Can you make pictures in your mind and spin them 3D, stuff like that? I don't have a leg to stand on when it comes to tedium, because I love dream explaining. But the thing that I find tedious is kind of those conversations. However, this is low-key a struggle to explain, but I wanted to talk about the experience of being inside of my mind, my internal monologue, because whenever I mention this, it's surprising to people. So me personally, if I'm not pretty actively thinking thoughts, or more listening to my thoughts, I experience thoughts mostly with an internal monologue, my voice, or sometimes even other people's voices. If I've been talking to someone for a long time, or if someone has a really distinctive voice, my internal monologue will take their voice for a while. Or if I'm thinking of something that they said, things like that. And sometimes I can switch them if I want to listen to a specific person. But that's not the thing. The thing that seems to strike people is that if I'm not pretty actively thinking of something, I can very easily just make my mind empty. When people talk about the experience of having constant racing thoughts, piling one on top of the other nonstop, or you can't go to sleep because you keep thinking and thinking and thinking. They're just words pouring into your head. I cannot relate to that. No thoughts, head empty, actually. Like, it's just blank. And actually, the first time I had realized this, there was a coworker who I had, and he was saying, spend a day without listening to any music or anything in your headphones or whatever, and just interrogating the thoughts that come into your mind, or not interrogating, observing what thoughts you have in your mind, and what you might be running from or distracting yourself from when you have headphones in all the time. And I was like, interesting. I'm an introspective person. I can do that meditation. And I was, maybe it's because I was so hyper focused on what are my thoughts. I was like, is there something wrong with my brain? Because I spent a whole day with my mind clear, to the extent that a lot of people, they hear this and they're like, oh my God, I wish I could experience that. Because I was saying, you just have racing thoughts, constantly, without peace. But for me, there was a point where I started crying, because I was like, there must be something wrong with my brain, that there's nothing inside my head. Who am I? Is this okay? I was Googling it, trying to find out if I was sick. But I think it's just the way that I am, and that it's fine. And I do want to report, over on this side, it's it sounds like peace to a lot of people, and I totally understand that. but it's like there's something boiling under the surface. Like when it comes to negative thoughts, like for an example, sometimes they do like come through my mind, because I do still have thoughts. I do still have an internal monologue. It's just it's not constant. It's a lot of the time when I'm thinking, it's almost like being in conversation with myself, or sometimes I think of it as like presenting, where like I am sort of like making an argument to myself if I'm thinking about something specific, or working through like a theory in my mind about whatever. Like, I like this movie because this and this. Here's my analysis of it. Like, I'm I'm doing little TED Talks up in here. And when I'm not doing that, or if I'm not having, abrupt, like random, like non sequitur thoughts, it's I'm just vibing. There's nothing. But that means if I'm feeling like negatively, I can't always articulate what the thought or the feeling is behind it. Like, I mentioned I have a lot of like physical symptoms of anxiety, but if someone were to ask me, like, what are you anxious about? A lot of the time it would be like, I don't know, because I'm not telling myself what it is. I see I see the signs that something's not right, but I don't get a sort of explanation, or I guess not an explanation, but like I feel like sometimes I'm resistant to identifying with certain words. So that's not super helpful when I don't have like semi-objective like clue. Like if I was saying in my mind, I'm unhappy about like this or that, or something specific, even if I am rejecting like the label, I can still sort of like use that information and basically as evidence against myself that I am whatever the feeling is that I'm so like resistant towards. The other thing is, it caused so much issues for me when I was trying to do like mental health stuff, whether it was like talking to someone or doing like workbooks and like journaling activities and stuff like that. It's just when the only thing I can go off of is like I feel weird, or like I feel bad, but I can't find the source, or I can't find there's no direction that I'm being pointed to. It's hard to then try to talk to someone who they don't know what's going on, and I don't know what's going on, so we're just looking at each other. Or I don't like overly describing things to myself, or like in my head, because I'm like I'm seeing it, I'm feeling it, I'm experiencing it. Why do I need to like overly articulate it? So a lot of like grounding techniques and like coping mechanisms and things like that, like they don't work for me, or they make me like more agitated. You know, The really popular one is like 5 sense grounding, where it's like 5 things you see, 4 you hear, 3 you feel, 2 you smell, and 1 you taste. Doing that, I hated doing that, and it did not work for me ever. Or it would only work in for me in if I was like actively having like a very bad panic attack. And even then, I didn't like to do it all the way through. I didn't like to do it in detail. I just don't like it. And that stumped people when I would talk about it. Or I would be like looking on the internet, like for in like forums and stuff, to see if anyone else like thought that, or like had that experience where they're like, I just hate doing this. And I don't feel like I found anyone who like I could perfectly relate to. I sure hope any of this made sense. Okay, I hope I was able to like untangle that and lay it out for you in a way that made sense and like described like what's going on. That's gonna be it for me. My empty head is emptier than ever. So I'm signing off. If you like the video, you like the video. If you relate to this, if your brain does the same things my brain does, validate me in the comments, because I have pretty much never met someone who has not said that, like, in general, they're more on that side where they're like, no, I can't stop thinking. And I'm like, sometimes I can't start thinking. One time I told a friend of mine, I feel like if a person laid down next to me, they could hear the ocean.